Hey gamers, Rick here with Game Trade Media. We're live in Timonium, Maryland at the headquarters, our studio. And we're going to be talking about FrostGrave today. This is a special edition of Building Character. You're all like probably going, why is Game Trade Media live so early on a Tuesday? Well, we have a special guest. We have Joe McCullough, who is the creator of FrostGrave, which is published by Osprey Games. Joe, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, no problem. I was in town.
Well, you're
to do this.
But, yeah. So you live in the UK now, right?
Yep.
United Kingdom, Britain, Britannia.
Yeah.
It's
really confusing. So yeah, I live in England and Britain in the United Kingdom.
Is that how it goes?
Yeah. So, yeah.
Okay.
Don't ask which one's the country though, because no one seems quite sure. But
so when I first met you this morning, because it was the first time I met you.
Is it?
I believe so.
Okay. I was actually trying to remember. I think because I've seen you in videos so many times, I was like, have I met him? Maybe I met him at a convention.
Were you at PAX Unplugged last year? Did you come in for that? Okay, then yeah, this is
all
it.
right. First time. Good to meet you.
I was like, he doesn't have a British accent.
It's disappointing to a lot
And
of
why
people.
is that? Why have you Rochambeau'd me into thinking you might have had a British accent?
Well, so I have lived there for 12 years now, but my wife has like this really beautiful, what they'd call a posh Kent accent,
Okay.
and like I can't even strive to that. So
Right.
kind of, what's the point,
Right.
you know? But
He's also from the United States.
I'm from North Carolina, and I don't have a particularly thick North Carolina.
You don't
accent
either, yeah.
No, I've always had kind of a flat
The
American accent.
All
So,
right. The nondescript
Yeah.
regional accent that nobody can really tell where you're from.
yeah, there's people over there like, so you're from what? Texas? I'm like, North Carolina. So close, right?
Close.
Yeah, sure.
Because I was like, one of the things I think that I always say is every time I get someone that from Britain or Australia or whatever on camera, it really elevates our production value. And I was like, yes, another Brit. But that's okay. I'm just kidding. I'm not disappointed at all because this is such a cool opportunity to actually sit here and speak to someone that has created a game that is played all over the world, and learn how to build a warband for this. So that's what we're doing. This isn't building character today. It's building a warband. So we're building multiple characters. We're not going to give them so much the backstories like we do on a regular episode. We're going to just figure out how to build it, what's the best strategy to building, and the one that we build for me, hopefully we'll be able to destroy his, because that's my goal in life, is to be the winner at all the games I play. But as all of you know who have watched, I tend to just lose.
Really? Creators are notoriously bad at their own games, and I am no exception to this.
All right, very cool. So
You got a good shot.
What warband did you bring?
So, I brought what is a chronomancer. So,
Okay.
So basically, you start with your wizard. He is your kind of main character,
Right.
And you'll probably also have an apprentice, and then kind of all their hired fighters. And
Right.
for the most part, it's probably not a great idea to get too attached to those hired fighters because they don't tend to last too long in the Frozen City. So it's focus on your wizard and kind of
Okay.
filter on down. So there's 10 different kind of schools of wizardry, and that's
Okay.
kind of the first choice you have to make when you're going about constructing your warband.
Okay, so we have Chronomancer, which you're going to be playing.
Yep. So a chronomancer, as you might guess from the title, is kind of a time wizard.
Right.
So manipulates time, and
So there's Enchanter,
yep. So
which I will not be playing.
no,
Necromancer.
everybody loves the necromancer.
Everybody loves Necromancer. Speaking of Necromancer, I do have, I believe this is the Lich.
the Lich Lord.
The Lich Lord,
Yep.
which is kind of cool. There's lots of miniatures available from North Star Military Figures. So if you're interested in checking out the FrostGrave miniature line, that's where you can find them, over at North Star Military Figures. So there's lots of cool stuff. But the wonderful thing about this too, as we're going through the Wizards, is you put this game together so that you can literally play with any miniature in your library, as
Yeah.
long as there's a rule for that miniature.
Yeah, I mean, one of the because I'm a kind of an old school role player, so I grew up on D&D and others, and but at some point my gaming group fell apart, and I kind of continued in the hobby through painting miniatures, and then I moved to the UK and I got into wargaming, and I realized I got all these great fantasy miniatures, but there's no game really to play them with.
Right.
So I'm going to create one, and especially wizards, because in wargaming, wizards just aren't used
Right.
very often. They're kind of adjuncts onto other kind of more combat.
They're artillery.
Systems. Yeah, essentially. Yeah. So I wanted something that really focused on them because, you know, especially like a company like Reaper, they've got so many wizard models, and there's just so little call to use them unless you happen to play a wizard in D&D. So I wanted to, give an excuse, and then the game has wandering monsters, random encounters, and that's just an excuse to go. You know, I've got this cool giant worm miniature. I've got to have an excuse to put them on the table.
You gotta use it.
Munch some guys. So
I mean, that's one of the things I really liked about this game. I'll honestly tell you, I have not played it.
Okay.
I have sat in on 2 games at 2 of our local game stores.
Okay.
Because these old school guys over at Critical Hit out in Bel Air play it. And I say old guys, they're my age. So I've gone out there and I've watched them play, and they use literally everything they can when they make this. Like if someone says wizard cast like a wall of fog or something like that, they take out cotton and they set it up on the board to be like, here's my wall of fog, and it's like, this is amazing. Watching it's so fun to watch these guys play these games. And then I've also been over here at Titan Games, which is literally 2 or 3 buildings just down the road from us here. They actually are the ones that provided the terrain that we'll be using this afternoon when we play. And so thank you, Titan. And I'll mention it again later. Jesus, you guys are so needy. But
it's a game that I hope really has fun at its heart, because it wasn't created to be a commercial product. I mean, obviously it has become one. That's great for me and for us, great. But it was really created as just an excuse to have fun. And while I hope the rules are good enough for most people, they're not designed to be super tournament hardcore. They're designed to allow you to play in different ways, play with all the minis you want,
which is great,
and have a more narrative kind of experience than a tactical experience.
So back to the wizards.
Yep.
All right, so we said Necromancer, we have the Soothsayer.
Yep. Which
I kind of feel like Soothsayer and Chronomancer might have some similarities.
They do in that the Soothsayer is all about about seeing things, and they can see through time to a limited extent, but kind of seeing the invisible, and they also have the power to control minds, which is the one reason most people actually play one, is they want that mind control spell.
That's pretty cool. And then, of course, the one that I'll be playing today is a Thaumaturge.
Thaumaturge. That's kind of your classic, I guess more like a cleric in D&D. So it's more of a healer. More of kind of a classic good guy wizard. So kind of counterpoint to your necromancer. That said, I try not to put any kind of morality in the game at all. If you want to play an evil wizard, you play an evil wizard. If you want to play a good wizard, play a good wizard.
Right.
I've often said you could play a good necromancer if you want. I haven't quite figured out how you do that, but I guess you only reanimate people that really want to.
Really need to come back.
I'd love to be a zombie. It's,
which I've heard said many times.
It was a lifelong goal, and now that I'm dead, I'm going to do it.
Exactly. So we've got I've got some miniatures here for my warband that I want to use, but I'm just going to give you guys an example. I mean, we've set it already. We've got a bunch of miniature packs here that are part of the FrostGrave line. Like I said, we got the Lich Lord. There's the FrostGrave Barbarians right here, which are pretty cool. I think I have 2 Barbarians and 2 Soldier boxes, so which are really cool.
Yeah, so all of these are designed so that you can either use a box to make, my warband's going to look like barbarians, or these can be barbarians you encounter during the game and are kind of uncontrolled monsters. So. Or you can mix and match, because most of the soldiers are more defined by their equipment, so it doesn't matter whether it's a barbarian or a cultist or kind of a normal guy.
But if you want to maintain a thematic,
exactly. If you want a kind of barbarian look to them, you can go there.
And then of course I just have this box of miniatures that I always just keep full, and almost everything in here could possibly be used in a game, from just just a soldier. I actually think this is like an orc warrior. There's another like orc warrior creature. Elemental is a wandering monster.
So again, there's
all sorts of stuff.
There's no races in the game as such.
Right.
As far as the game is concerned, it kind of refers to everyone as human. But if you want to make them orcs, go for it. It doesn't make any difference.
Right.
So.
And I was actually going to use the Orc Warband, or not the Orc, the Gob. You guys know my favorite character type, gnolls.
Yep.
Which is literally my favorite monsters.
Okay.
So gnolls,
So, yep, there's nice gnolls.
they have a box like this for gnolls, and then they also have the metallic figures, the gnoll thaumaturge,
Yep.
which is really cool, and then there's like all sorts of other ones, and then it doesn't hurt. And I'm not trying to say anything against North Star Military figures, but WizKids currently has their unpainted pre-prime miniatures,
Yep.
and the gnolls from those
They're
are
nice.
sick.
They are really nice. It's
So-
funny. I get a lot of credit for like, it was great that you invented a game that lets you use your own miniatures, and I always thought, did I? Because surely you can do that with any game, right? It wasn't in my mentality to do it any other way, really. So, but I'm glad that if people felt they need that freedom, you know, within the game, that they have it, because it's
Exactly.
about constructing the game you want to play.
So let's construct the warband. So, like you've already said, it is the wizard that makes the team.
Yeah, he's your main character. He's really what you're charting through the games. And,
Okay.
you know, like I said, the other warband members will kind of come and go.
Right.
Perhaps more go. But your wizard is the guy you're following, and he's going to kind of gain experience
Okay.
and level up. And
I'm gonna real quick, everybody, while he describes more about the building your warband around the wizard, I'm gonna really quick share this into the FrostGrave group so we can get them involved.
Okay, so yeah, the first thing you want to do is you want to choose which school of wizardry you want your wizard to come from. So, and that's really just a matter of what you think is cool or kind of what fits your play style. So, for people who are kind of brand new to wargaming, I often say go with an elementalist, because that's your kind of classic fireball throwing, lightning bolt hurling wizard. It's pretty simple to play. You kind of point and shoot. So, but you know, if you're somebody who likes to be a lot more subtle, you might think about an illusionist, because you know that's obviously about kind of trickery and manipulating how your figures look on the board and how they move around the board, and turning invisible and things like that. My personal favorite is the enchanter, who is a guy who kind of imbues weapons with greater power, or who creates constructs. And a construct can be anything. It's basically any animated thing that fights for you. So that can be, you know, a giant put together log monster, or it can be a chair. You know?
Nice.
So if you want to play the Beauty and the Beast warband, you can be an enchanter and have your wardrobe attack, or if you want it a little more serious, you know.
I don't know. So we got some people already in the chat. We've got Mini Painting Studio, which is Josh over there. And he says, "Oh, awesome, great game, 10 out of 10, would recommend."
Thank you, Josh.
Darwin Thorpe says, "Yeah, we're old, and we know it at this age." Mini Painting Studio also says, "FrostGrave is good for these reasons, in my opinion. One, fun dynamic rules where the expansion books aren't super expensive and add nice variety to be added whenever you want, never required, and the cost is, you know, is decent." Carrie Wood says good morning, and Dave Taylor says hi there, Rick and Joe. So hi everybody, thanks for joining us, everybody that has joined us. If you're watching this, we'd love it if you'd share it as well on your page or in any like wargaming groups that you are a part of, so we can let more people see what's going on here.
Yeah, and if you have any specific questions, feel free to throw them up there, and
Absolutely.
I'll answer them if I know the answer, and pretend you didn't write it if I don't.
Perfect. All right, so I'm going to pull out the ones that I kind of want to use for my warband. What is the average size of a warband?
So usually 10 figures.
10 figures.
Yeah,
okay.
so 10 is kind of the maximum. There are a few ways to cheat that.
Okay.
But let's not worry about those right
Let's
at the
not worry
moment.
about those, yeah. So,
You can go with a smaller warband if you want to start with kind of some really elite figures. I don't suggest it.
All right.
Numbers tend to trump quality
okay.
in the early game. But
So I have my wizard.
Yep.
So everybody that sees it is going to probably recognize this sculpt.
here he comes,
Here he comes.
coming around the corner.
If you ever watched the movie Excalibur and you remember Merlin, that's Merlin from Excalibur right there. He's got the skull cap, he's got the cape and the staff and everything. So that's going to be my wizard.
All right.
So based on that, using the book,
Yep.
Under Thaumaturgist, wow, well, opened right to it on page 17.
Yeah, so the biggest part of creating your wizard is choosing his spells.
Okay.
I don't want to say most complicated. It's not complicated, but it does take a minute. So one of the things that's core to the game is even though you belong to a specific school of wizardry,
Okay.
you can learn spells from any school.
Wait, what?
Any wizard can learn a spell from any school. So your thaumaturge can learn a necromancer spell. However, he's not going to be as good at it.
Right.
So when you're building your wizard, you'll start with 8 different spells.
Okay.
3 of those will come from your own school, so you'll have 3 thaumaturge spells.
Okay.
And then you'll see here, you'll have a group of schools of magic that are aligned to thaumaturgy. So the soothsayer, the sigillist, and the illusionist.
Okay.
So you'll also choose 1 spell from each of their schools.
Okay.
And then kind of the next level down, you've got the schools that are neutral to your school, and you can choose your remaining 2 spells from one of those. And you have 1 school that's opposed to you. So in the case of the thaumaturge, the necromancer.
Right.
So you don't start with any spells from necromancer. You can learn them later, but
Okay.
you know that is.
So I pick 3 spells.
So yeah, you want 3 thaumaturge spells.
All right. So I will take heal
Classic choice.
and shield. Sounds good. And restore life.
All right.
So he is a band-aid.
Yes, he is.
All right. So those are the 3 thaumaturge spells I'll take.
Okay.
I have with me the witch, chronomancer, and enchanter as well. So witch, chronomancer. Oh, there's elementalist, which is also there, which I can choose from, and enchanter. I want to say that's and summoner's the other one.
So now you want to start with. So if you can find the soothsayer, the sigillist, and the illusionist.
Oh, soothsayer.
Those are the ones you.
Oh, yeah.
So those are the ones you're going to want 1 from each of.
All right. So I have sigillist.
So sigillists are kind of your bookish wizards. They're the ones
Soothsayers.
who create the scrolls, write the magic books,
Okay. And summoner.
Yep.
All right, so sigillist and illusionist are my next 2 potentials. And there we go. So many papers. All right. So from these, I get to pick how many?
So one of these from each,
Okay.
essentially. And one of the things you want to start thinking about, not this is hard if you've never played the game, but you want kind of spells that'll be useful in different situations. So you've got your healing spell.
Yeah.
You've got your kind of defensive buff spell.
Right.
So you probably want to be thinking either I want something that manipulates the movement of my figures on the board, or you know, something like invisibility, which is going to allow them to move without being seen. Glow, which allows archers to shoot at people better, so a more offensive spell.
Okay.
You started with a thaumaturge. You're not going to be the most offensive
Right.
type of wizard, but you may still want something a
combat.
little more.
So I was going to actually take combat awareness,
Okay.
which gives my warriors a +2 in combat.
Yep.
So I thought that would be a good one. So there's 4.
So yeah, that's the soothsayer sort of allowing his guys to see that extra second in the future. It's almost like the Jedi.
Yeah.
I know it's coming, so I can block it kind of deal.
I like it. I also like monstrous form.
Okay, so that's the
For
don't mess with me. I look like a
Right.
monster.
Yeah. So I'm going to use that one. And then from the sigillist.
So yeah, the sigillist is
some
actually
good-
an even more kind of less offensive wizard than the thaumaturge, and tends to be more about kind of things done outside of the game. So some of the spells you actually cast either before you play or after you play, like absorb knowledge, which basically allows the sigillist to just kind of learn a book through osmosis and suck
Nice.
the knowledge out. But in game terms, it allows them to gain more experience, so they actually level up faster. So in some ways, they're not quite as good on the table, but they're going to get better faster than other wizards.
Okay.
Or Push is a
right.
very popular spell. Which
That's
is,
the one I'm looking
Get
at.
away from me!
Yeah. I don't want
know?
you near me. Go back towards my fighters.
Exactly.
So those are the ones I'm going to pick from there. So I have
And
I
makes
have
people
6.
really want to play with multi-level terrain, so they can
Push them up or
push them off things. Yeah.
Yes, I like that. And then I get to pick 2.
So 2 from basically 1 each, 1 from any of the following. So
Okay.
1 elementalist.
So it's 8 spells total in the beginning?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So I have 6 now.
Yep.
And let's see, the enchanter is one of them, but I'm going to just go right to Elementalist because that sounds where there's like fire.
That is where there's fire. Now, one of the things that you'll come up against, so because it's a neutral school, you have a +4, which means you're on a D20 4 points less likely to be able to cast that spell anytime you need it because it's from the Elementalist school. You can improve that later, but when you're starting out, these are the schools you haven't studied as much. So, so you may not want to go for something that say has a 12 or a 14 necessarily kind of casting because you're going to be unlikely to cast that. But
and these have a lot of 12s.
They do because their spells are the Elementalist spells are scary.
Right. So that
they
right
tend
there.
to fry people.
We're going to go ahead and actually skip Elementalist. Let's look at Witch.
Yep.
Let's see what Witch has. Control Animal, Curse, Fog. Fog was one of the ones that...
Fog is very popular because there are a lot of Elementalists running out there throwing fireballs. They can't do it if they can't see you. So, but, you know, they've got like Poison Dart. Yeah, Mud's another one that's quite popular because it just drops a big mud right in the middle to... Because probably worth mentioning that this, although this is a war game, it's not... The aim of the game is not necessarily to kill your opponent. The aim of kind of the basic game is there's some treasure on the board, treasure tokens. You want to run on and grab as many as possible and get out. And while slaughtering the opposing warband is a viable tactic to doing that, it's not the only tactic to doing that. There are other ways to go in there. So like Summoner has Leap, which is a very popular spell. So a good tactic is run the guy up, grab the treasure, and then use your wizard to bounce him off the board with the treasure. And so you've secured that one. And then as you get into the scenarios actually give you other kind of motivations during the game. So it's not always just a treasure grab, though that always remains an element of the game.
So I am going to take Leap from Summoner.
Boy.
And which means
you have to do that, by the way, when
you do it. Boing. And then Enchanter is the last one that I want to kind of take.
So like Grenade.
Grenade looks
obviously
great.
a very offensive spell.
Looks great. I will take Grenade. So there I have my spells.
Okay.
But now that we've done that, one of the things I think a lot of individuals might want to know is why Frostgrave? Where did the whole concept of Frostgrave come from?
Really hard to say. So I mean, in terms of me creating a game, it came from a conversation with my friend and colleague Phil Smith, who's now in charge of Osprey Games, the head of all Osprey Games. And it started just as a conversation and really a kind of whiny complaint by me that I was like, oh, you know, I like wargaming, but none of the games are doing exactly what I want. And he's kind of said, well, why don't you shut up and you write one then, you know, and if it's good, I'll publish it. So, so I went away and I wrote one, and luckily he thought it was good enough to publish. And as for where the kind of the rest of it came from, so the idea of a frozen city started off as just kind of a, where can I set this that isn't the same old, you know, and then, well, I don't know if this was conscious, I think subconsciously a few years before that, my wife and I had surprised my wife with a Christmas present of a trip to Tallinn, which is the capital of Estonia, and in one of my less brilliant moves, I booked tickets for us to go in February. Not realizing that the average temperature in Estonia in February is like -10 degrees.
Beautiful weather.
Yeah, it was. But actually, it turned out really well because, for one, there was no one else in Tallinn then because no one else was that stupid. But it snowed and it was very romantic. And Tallinn is this. The old city is really this city frozen in time, and it's an old medieval town. And you know, we spent several days wandering around through this very snowy, very quiet medieval city, and it was just really beautiful, and I think that became a big influence to me later, and has kind of helped feed this. And then, like I said, it was an excuse to put minis on the table. And how can I have the most fun putting minis on the table? And I think I've played a lot of war games, obviously, and one of kind of my issues with some of the smaller warband games is that if you've just got 10 guys and they're all using swords or bows or whatever, you don't actually have a lot of tactical choice as the player. It tends to be kind of either I shoot my bow at the enemy because I have a bow, or I run at the enemy because I have a sword. And you can have a lot of fun doing that because, you know, at the end of the day, it's about rolling dice and having fun with your friends, and,
Right.
and any rule set can do that. But I wanted something that I wanted to think a little more each turn, and I thought, well, how can I do that? And I thought, well, wizards can manipulate the board in different ways, and in
Right.
a lot of different ways. So why don't I do that and just create a lot of variety and also a lot of chaos because I like a lot of chaos.
I love
it. I don't want to take it too seriously, so.
Right.
So.
All right, so we've gotten our spells picked for the
Yep.
wizard. We're going to call our wizard Ray.
Ray. Naming is very important.
Yeah, so our wizard is Ray.
Yep.
Uh,
So, I guess the first thing you actually do, though, it doesn't really matter. So, all your characters have a stat line, which is, you know, pretty common for any war game. All the starting wizards have the exact same stat line, so you
All
can
right.
just write that in.
All right, so M6.
So yeah, your movement, which is just kind of the number of inches you can move. Your fight, which is
+2.
Yep, your shoot
Plus 0.
Armor 10.
10, all right.
Yep. Willpower
+4.
and health, which is
14.
essentially just hit points.
Okay.
So
This is what the stat line is going to look like right
Yep.
here. There you go. And it's, like I said, the name is Ray.
Ray.
He's awesome. Ray.
Wizard Ray.
Yeah, yeah. I'm Ray the Wizard. I grew up in a very small town, so there we have our backstory.
All right. So then you need to start thinking about. Well, you can fill in your spells on the other page, but I don't think anybody wants to sit through
Yeah, we're not going to
all that. But we'll skip that part. So then you got to start thinking about what you want in your warband, and the first and major choice is: do you want an apprentice? Generally, I say the answer is yes. You want an apprentice, but it's not mandatory.
Okay.
So you got 500 gold crowns in which to buy your warband. A starting apprentice costs 200. So
Wow.
personally, I would suggest getting the apprentice because it gives you the second spellcaster on the board. It gives you a lot more, and because, as we'll see when we get to how kind of turns work, it gives you more tactical flexibility.
Okay.
And it's also just more fun,
Okay.
in all honesty, because it allows you to cast, in theory, twice as many spells. Not quite, because they're not actually as good at it, so they fail more often.
Sure.
And they tend to die easier, too. But,
And so they're 200 crowns.
yep.
All right.
But it's
For-
also just kind of, wizards have apprentices, you know?
Right.
it's the part of the classical folklore mythology of wizards, and I wanted to work that into the game. And
So the apprentice will be Leon.
Leon,
Because he's, that's a great apprentice name.
that's top notch. So apprentices always have a stat line that is reflective of the wizard. So they're basically always the wizard, but worse. In point of fact, since all wizards have the same starting stat line, all apprentices also have the same starting stat line, which is given right there.
And so
But-
it's movement 6.
Yep.
Fight at 0.
Yep, they're not so good at that.
Shoot at -2.
Yeah, so they're not really great at carrying bows.
They also have
Armor
attack
10.
or armor 10.
Yep. Will +2.
Will +2. And hit points or
Health, technically,
Health,
but
10.
we can say hit points. I don't think that's an own term.
And so
Just in case.
let me show you guys Leon. I have a apprentice already, and you'd almost think that he's the actual wizard, but no, this is just Leon.
He's sporting some nice head horns there.
Yeah, well, he's touched, So there's Leon, and he hates being called Leo. Don't do that. So there we go.
He will cast
Yeah.
a spell in your general direction.
He may not
So,
hit. But
yeah, do a lot of
so
hand
his,
gestures.
Are their spells the same as their?
Yeah, so
wizards?
basically they have the wizard's spells, except they're always at -2 to cast them.
Okay.
So,
Perfect.
so they really are just kind of your wizard light.
Okay.
But they serve a tactical purpose in game terms. They're also kind of they're your insurance in a sense of if you play the game a lot and your wizard goes way up in level and then dies,
Right.
you can actually promote the apprentice to be your new wizard as opposed
Okay.
to starting over. So
Okay.
it gives you a little bit of insurance and allows you to kind of carry on the narrative even if your wizard is
And
killed.
Leon looks like he wants to.
He does. He looks like there
Yeah.
might be an accident
Yeah.
the next time in the city.
It's
So.
the worst.
Oh,
Okay,
he slipped on the ice.
So then we have the soldiers.
Yep. So then you got soldiers,
Alright.
which is literally just you have X amount of gold, and this is how much they cost, and you can buy as many as you want up to your warband limit
Okay.
being 10. Like I said,
Okay.
there are a few ways to cheat that, but
So my thought is, because I kind of want to go to theme on what the miniatures actually have in their hands, except for this one. This one has beer.
Yeah, so I mean, the miniatures, or the soldiers are really all defined by their weaponry. So, you know, the archer is the guy with the bow, and a man-at-arms is a guy who has a sword and a shield and light armor, as opposed to the knight who has a sword and a shield and heavy armor. But, you know, it's not designed to be limiting. It's designed to be accommodating. So if you've got a cool mini, it should fit one of these basic archetypes. And if it doesn't exactly, then find one close and use that and tell your opponent, and it should be fine.
So I have 2 archers.
Yep.
We have the lady archer, which is awesome. And then I have this male archer. So I'm picking 2 archers.
2 archers.
And by soldier here, we just write down archer.
That's actually where their name goes, but then there's type. But
okay, yeah. Okay.
Depending on if you actually want to name.
Well,
them.
his name is Archer.
Yeah. Oh, well, that makes sense.
And
Archer
then,
the Archer.
The female's name is Bowena, Bowena. So
You've been waiting to use that one.
I have been waiting to use that one. All right, so now we have. So the Wizard and Apprentice, do they count towards the 10?
Yep.
Okay, so we have 4 of our 10 so far. And those were each 50. 50
yeah,
each.
so what you're going to find is that you know, a lot of people want to get a bunch of knights to start, which you just can't do because they're really expensive.
Yeah,
so,
they're like 100 GP.
Yeah.
That's insane, but awesome.
So what tends to happen is you have a couple of good guys, like a couple of archers and a knight, and then some thugs or thieves to kind of round out the numbers. And, you know, they probably won't live that long anyway, so, you know, they're kind of like goldfish. You know, don't get too attached to them because they probably won't live. But you can fire them later, and once you've got some more gold, hire better guys. Or some people like to see it as if their thief goes a few games and does well, I'm going to upgrade him by buying kind of like the treasure hunter, which is kind of the thief but better.
But better, yes.
So you can kind of start. You can, if you want to keep the same figures, you know, that's fine. Just they start off as thugs and become, or thieves and become treasure hunters or what have you.
So I'm gonna go ahead and so I've now spent 300 of my 500, which is like ridiculous. But I still am thinking that I would like a knight.
Okay.
And I think my knight is going to be.
Yeah. So to be honest, my kind of standard starting 8 would be a knight or a Templar, which is kind of the knight except uses a 2-handed weapon instead of the sword and shield.
Okay. 2
archers or an archer and a crossbowman, they're kind of interchangeable, and then 5 thieves or thugs to kind of.
Yeah, because I'm thinking my knight is going to be this guy right here.
The shining armor.
In the shining armor, big shield, kind of has that Arthurian look to him.
You're kind of riding that theme, aren't you?
And his name is going to be Artie. Artie the Knight. Yeah. So I'm going to go with that. So there's 5, and like you said, the rest pretty much thugs and thieves.
Yeah, so your thieves are a bit faster, but they fight worse.
Right.
Your thugs are better fighters, but are in every other way rubbish.
Rubbish.
But I mean, one of the things to remember, like I said, the game is about grabbing treasure and getting it off the table. And once that figure leaves the table, they're out of the game. So in some ways, you don't want to use your knight to grab treasure. You want him in the thick of it, or you know, defending the guys who are grabbing the treasure. So looks like you got a good thug figure there.
This one?
Down. No, I was thinking of the one with the pint.
Oh, with the pint? Yeah, so we got this guy here. This will be thug number 1. All right, he's Buster. Yeah, Buster Beer Gut.
Buster.
So we have Buster, who is a thug. We've got, whoops, this will be Linda. Linda is a thief. Listen, Linda. Linda, listen.
She looks subtle like a thief.
Yeah. All right. Then we've got, I kind of want this guy to be a thief as well.
That's a nice figure.
Yeah, it's a nice figure. He's Roland. You see him Roland. Hey, and is that right? Is that how that goes? No.
Kenny Stewart says, just wanted to say that I love the direction of the FrostGrave minis. They have the perfect old school feel, and that's what drew me to FrostGrave.
Nice.
Yeah, I was actually just thinking about this the other day. So when FrostGrave first came out, and nobody knew it was going to be anything, but North Star and Osprey worked together on some miniatures, and they went around to some of the kind of classic British sculptors to get minis, and one of those guys was Mark Copplestone, who just a really beloved figure sculptor in Britain for a long time, but hadn't done mini fantasy sculpts in quite a while, and he agreed to come on and do a few of the sculpts, and that was kind of one of the little stories that helped make FrostGrave that I don't think gets talked about, but Mark Copplestone returns to fantasy for the first time in years, and there was a lot of excitement about that at the time,
and also, I mean, for you as a fan of gaming and miniatures and war games,
absolutely,
having someone that you've probably followed their career come back and do something for your product.
I mean, it's again, I get all the credit for FrostGrave, and that's really unfair in a lot of ways, because so many people have gone into making this game what it is, and before we went on air, we were talking about
the artwork.
Dimitri Bermak, who's done the artwork for the entire series. He's actually helped by his wife Kate now, but together, so there's I don't know how many, six books or something, and together they've produced all of the artwork. So it's got this wonderful, consistent feel to it, and they're really good.
Right. And you can see that just on the cover of the book for FrostGrave, but also, we've also got the Into the Breeding Pits, which is just another one of the books. Sorry, right there, Into the Breeding Pits. Forgotten Packs, which is a beautiful book as well. It fits a theme I like, with the barbarian, wizard-looking guy there with the big staff and all the bones and stuff on it. And then, of course, like I said, they're Into the Breeding Pits. And then there was another one I had sitting here. Where did it go? Did I not?
You did, but I don't know what happened to it. It got stolen. It's over here.
Oh, there it is. The FrostGrave Folio, right there, which is super cool. And again, that artwork is sick.
Yeah, I love that.
Right there.
I love that artwork, and one thing I love about the creativity of the whole thing becomes circular. So, so I give these kind of vague notes to Dimitri. Hey, how about we have a wizard doing this? But I don't give him a lot of detail because I don't think in visual terms. Sure. And luckily he does, and he's able to translate that. But then, so I think I said, let's have a barbarian coming up the stairs and attacking the sigilist, and he produces this fantastic piece of art, and then the sculptors go away and they use this as the basis for the miniatures.
Right.
But we've also had it go the other way. So when we did the artwork for the main book, you've got 10 wizards in there, and each one's got a picture, but there were no apprentices.
Right.
So then the figure sculptors did apprentices based on the artwork for the wizard, kind of downgrading it. And then so Into the Breeding Pits, we actually took one of the figures that was used for one of the apprentices and worked it back into the artwork.
Cool.
So it's just kind of just wonderful creativity. But so you got Dimitri, you've got Kev Dallimore, who's painted all the figures, another kind of legend in British kind of wargaming for his painting.
Right.
And so he's done most of the painting and most of the figure photography, and it's just really lovely.
It's so good.
And then you've got Nick and the guys at North Star and Phil at Osprey Games working together to produce these minis, and yeah, so there's just so many people really deserve a lot of credit for the success of the game.
And you guys are all awesome. There's no doubt about it. And you also have another thematic around it's in the same world, right?
Yeah. So after a couple of years of writing FrostGrave stuff, I was starting to feel a little burnt out on the setting. Not because I didn't like it anymore, but just because of the way creativity works. If you go to the well so many times without refilling it, it's going to dry up. So I said I need a break from this setting, and Phil, the editor, said, well, why don't why don't we do FrostGrave in another setting? And at first I was like, I don't want to do FrostGrave in another setting. That sounds whiny, sorry. I don't really want to do FrostGrave in another setting. Because, that's just a bestiary, that's just another group of monsters. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if I'm going to do something kind of new, I want to give players a new experience.
Right.
So I came up with this, which is FrostGrave Ghost Archipelago. It's called FrostGrave because it is set in the same world and it uses a lot of the same core rules. But instead of wizards, you have this other group, these guys called Heritors. They have inherited their powers. So the basic premise of Ghost Archipelago is there's this weird, mysterious chain of islands, an archipelago, that appears every couple of centuries. And somewhere in that is the crystal pool, which is kind of a fountain of youth kind of thing. You drink from it, and you get superpowers.
Nice.
And that happened 200 years ago. But now all those people have died off. But their descendants are still there.
Okay.
And they've got little fragments of their power. And mechanically, it works very different than mages. But the two systems are compatible, and the monsters from one are compatible with the other.
Nice.
But it gave me a chance to kind of work from different. I got to draw on my love of Robert Louis Stevenson and Raphael Sabatini for Ghost Archipelago, as opposed to kind of Robert E. Howard and Tolkien for FrostGrave. So, but and it was good. So I took a break from that and I did this for a bit, and now I'm back in FrostGrave and loving it again. And I feel like I've recharged.
Yeah, and that's awesome. So if you guys haven't picked that up yet, go check out Ghost Archipelago. It's a very cool themed setting as well. It kind of has that rainforest jungle.
Yeah, it's kind of
islands.
I stupidly called it a piratey game once, and then everybody thought it was going to have pistols and cannons, and I was like, no, it doesn't. It's still the world of FrostGrave, so we're still talking swords and magic, but yeah, it's definitely more kind of the pulp, jungly kind of feel.
So for those of you that also don't know, one of my favorite things in this world, our reality, I love the cold. I love it. I tried to go to
this reality.
I tried to go to Antarctica twice when I was in the military.
Did you?
Yeah, because I want to go there. I've been to Sweden many times.
Have you been to Tallinn? Because it's really nice and cold.
I have not, but I've been to Sweden. I've been to Lapland.
Yeah, so you've been over
Alaska a few times. I love the cold, and so FrostGrave as a fantasy world setting totally scratches an itch for me because I love that whole feel of, if this were a RPG, I would be throwing in, the hazards of the climate that the characters would have to deal with, and all that stuff. But which is something that you don't necessarily use in this game, right?
No. So like, if you want to play FrostGrave in a jungle, in temperate, not everybody wants to build their terrain with snow all over it.
But I don't know who those people are. I wouldn't talk to if I did.
So no, you don't. There's nothing in the game that says there are no rules within the kind of core game for slipping on the ice or being buried in snow. There are some scenarios that have a snowstorm in it or something.
Right.
In which case you just have to modify it to a storm.
Right.
But no, I tried to keep it in many ways generic in the same way as the figures, because I didn't. In the same way, I don't overly define what FrostGrave, the city, looks like, because I want you to use whatever terrain you have and not feel like, oh, mine doesn't look right. Yours looks right. It's fine.
Regardless of what it is, it looks
exactly.
Because that's one of the things too I like about it is it's so open that the city of FrostGrave or whatever is huge, and you could actually do it where you never see the same parts of the city twice, which is super cool.
I mean, one of the a lot of people say, well, when are we going to get a map of FrostGrave? I'm sorry, you're never going to get a map of FrostGrave. Well, I shouldn't say never. It'll probably happen. But I don't really want to do it, in all honesty, because I don't want to define it that well, because I think that's limiting. I want to always be free and go at. And then there's this part of the city, which I neglected to mention earlier, where this happens.
It's an ever-changing city. It's a magical city.
And I totally, set myself up with Ghost Archipelago, because there you got this chain of islands, and the islands do actually move around slowly and kind of, and there's hundreds of them, so you'll never see the same one twice. But.
Now let's see if there's anything in the chat here going on. We got lots of individuals. Where are we at? Carrie says, I gotta say, I like how we're looking at a game called FrostGrave on a day where it's snowing, sleeting outside.
Yeah, we're actually. We were supposed to catch flights out of here tomorrow to get to Adepticon, and I think, I don't know if that's going to happen. We're still going to get to Adepticon. I'll be there. But right now we're talking road trip. So,
Roberto Fabiani says, nice minis, look like Robin Hood figs. Do they?
Well, the guy at the quarterstaff does look pretty Little John.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
That's weird. Yeah, it's so weird. Cobblestone is one of the best sculptors around, and a truly nice guy. Chuck Green says, I heart Frostgrave. Kenny Stewart and Kevin Dallimore painting the box art minis doesn't hurt either. Yeah, as you mentioned. Ingo Schnecker, I'm sorry if I messed your name up, but he says, I like Frostgrave a lot. It's a great game. And Dave Wheel says, great game, well thought out and presented. So lots of good intel.
Yeah, and again, the design.
Yeah.
You know, the designers at Osprey just done a lovely job.
They did a great job, absolutely.
You know, and
so we got 2 more miniatures, or 2 more Warbanders I got to put in here. So
oh, okay, sorry.
no, that's okay. Because that's what I want. I want to get that whole history and
Right.
give the shout out and love to all the people that have helped make this awesome game. But here's another thug I want to use. He just happens to be carrying that head.
Well, you know,
Very thuggish.
it's a frozen city. There's a lot of those laying around.
Right. A lot of combat going on. You may come across some ravaged warbands. And that individual is going to be Tippy.
Tippy the head carrier.
Tippy the head carrier.
Yeah.
And then the last one I want to use is this gentleman here as another thug for my last guy. There we go. He looks like he wants to be a little bit more. Like he may want to become a knight someday.
He does. He's
Yeah.
angling for promotion.
Yeah, I'm not sure. So what should we name this guy, everybody? For all you watching, I'll let you guys name the last guy in my war band.
That's a really poor decision.
So this is what we do on a regular episode of
Okay.
character. Like we'll build a D&D character, and literally everybody watching gives us the backstory. We kind of pick and choose as to, based on what the miniature looks like. They come up with everything, and it's been a lot of fun. Name, everything. It's so much fun. And we get a lot of views.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
We'll see. We have Hank and Steve, which is a miniature we did, and Steve is this fighter whose brother got changed into this magical shield, and so there's Hank. It's this shield that's just this huge face,
Right.
And he has to defend his brother because he's such a jerk in life that he would just let his brother get beat up or whatever. So now he has to protect his brother as a cursed shield, and he talks and he hates getting hit in the face. It's the best, and that came out of one of those building.
But who
characters.
doesn't like getting hit in the face? This guy's
I love
unique.
it.
He doesn't like getting hit in the face, unlike the rest of the warband.
So again, if you guys have a name, I need a name for this gentleman with the axe and mace, who's part of the warband. He's a thug, or at least just
A thug with pretensions.
yeah, exactly. He wants to be. He's got some interest in being a little bit more someday. Maybe if he gathers the right treasures and everything, he could be elevated up to maybe a knight or maybe even a tracker. Who knows? This guy could be anything. He could be anything more than just a thug.
aspirations.
He does. So, what do you guys think?
Chuck says Ernig Ritterschwert.
Ernig Ritterschwert.
And Carrie says
Larry.
Larry.
Well, you could combine those. He could be
Percy.
Larry Ernig Wisher.
Percy longs to be a knight, but comes from a poor family. That's coming from Chuck Green. You know what, Chuck? I do like Ernig, but we're going to use Ernig as Ritterschwert is just much too lettery for the names that we've picked here already. So
Well, but he's the one with pretensions.
he does have pretensions.
Christi-
Axel Macehand. Christopher, that is a great name. I'm not going to use it for this, but let's use it for another.
That
building
is
character.
definitely worth
Yeah, Axel's a great name.
scratching down.
Axel Macehands. So let's go with Ernig Ritterschwert. That was the first one that was put up there, so we appreciate that. So Ernig, Ritterschwert.
So like it sounds.
Ritterschwert.
Yeah.
Yeah. His parents were butchers, and they have their own type of bratwurst called the Ritterschwert brat. It's actually very disgusting. They don't know how to handle spices, so that's why he had to leave. There we go. We've got our warband.
Yeah, so now it's just literally filling in the numbers on the
numbers,
sheet so
okay.
that you have it. One of the things that when the game first came out, a lot of people asked for was they wanted a soldier that gained experience.
Okay.
So in the core game, basically only your wizard gains experience. He levels up. He gets new skills and stuff. The soldiers don't. They die and get replaced with better soldiers if you're going well, but they don't essentially change. You can to a limited degree equip them with magical stuff to give them some extra character. But anyway, so one of the first expansions I did was I created captains who are a soldier that you can take that does gain experience.
Oh, cool.
Has some extra special abilities and such like that. That's if you get into the game and like it, and once you get the rules down a little bit more, that it just gives you a little extra, little more character to it.
I kind of feel like if any of my soldiers or my units, not the major apprentice, were to survive, I would potentially make them a captain.
Yeah, I think that's the way to do it.
Yeah, because that gives you that continuity of possible storyline if you're trying to play a story arced game. Yep. Because you have there's cards that are scenario based cards.
Yeah, so there's one expansion I did called Ulterior Motives. This is another great example. I'm really interested in the creative process. So sorry if I go on about this, but so I'd proposed a book originally called Ulterior Motives, which was I'm going to put subplots into the game,
right?
And then as I was doing that, I realized actually a book is a really terrible way to go about doing this, because basically I wanted things that you could keep secret from your opponent, because in theory your opponent doesn't know why you're in the frozen city right now. But I thought I don't want you to roll on a table and have to keep that hidden from your opponent, because that's just not good game mechanics. Even as we're all friends here and we trust each other. But so I thought, actually, this will work a lot better as a deck of cards where you can actually keep the card and hold it. And luckily, Osprey agreed that this was a good idea, and so it came out as a deck of cards. So yeah, it's a deck of 40 ulterior motive cards, and basically you draw one before the game, and it tells you you are actually looking for X, and so you put some kind of special scenery on the board, and plus a few extra ones, so your opponent doesn't really know what it is you're angling for, and it gives you like special treasures or special experience if you accomplish that. It gives the game much more of that narrative feel, which is what I always wanted it to be. I think one of the reasons the game is successful is, I feel like anyway, it's a product of almost two different traditions of gaming. So I grew up in the U.S. where kind of your modern gaming comes out of D&D. That's the game that launches the entire industry. And while that then goes over to Britain and becomes really important, very quickly Games Workshop comes to dominate the British wargaming fantasy scene. And I think because I started in the U.S. and then moved to Britain and engaged in both of these quite a lot, when I came to write my own game, it naturally became a fusion of that, so that people who are used to D&D see a lot of D&D in this book. People who are used to Games Workshop see a lot more time in this book, which is great, because then it hopefully appeals to everyone.
Yeah.
But also I think hopefully I've drawn upon some of the best elements of both to create it. So.
Well, I think you have, because I see it, again, I'm a huge D&D fan. I've been playing it since the early 80s. And when I see the artwork, when I see the character descriptives, I think, oh, this totally could be another way of presenting a D&D-esque opportunity. Like if I wanted to say, we're on a campaign, we're doing our campaign thing, all right, now everybody build a FrostGrave thing. Your wizard that you're playing is your wizard in FrostGrave. Now we're going to play this for a night just as a break from the narrative, and be like, all right, and any treasure you get there, I can write a treasure out for either one. Yeah. So it can translate it, and then you disband your soldiers and stuff, and now you got this new treasure piece, but you have to survive. Yeah. Type situation, and that would be, I could see you doing.
I've seen at least one guy online who has run it as an RPG. I mean, a tabletop RPG, I suppose, but with a definite more RPG feel to it, and that is how I like it. I like to delve into the story of it, but partly because I'm a terrible wargamer, and I just, my idea of tactics is roll dice and hope for the best. But so I want to focus on the story.
So just so you all watching know that we are going this afternoon. We're not going to be doing it live. We're going to pre-record us versus each other using the warband we made today, and the warband that he brought with him, that Joe brought with him, and we're gonna record that and then put that up at a later date, probably sometime this week. We just want to add a few more flavors to it as through Leona's editing process to make it look a little...
Make us look good.
Make us look good, make the game...
Take out all the rules mistakes I make, because I will make them.
And so we'll make that available. So make sure you're following us here at Game Trade Media so you do not miss out on that amazing video that we're going to be putting up. I say amazing because...
Because we're going to do it 9 times, and
until
just
we
pick
get
the
it
best
right.
one.
Until we get it right.
That game was terrible. Don't show that
No,
one.
yeah. That terrain piece was the worst.
Exactly.
Let's not put that in there. But you guys have helped and have seen the warband that I put together with my thaumaturgist, and you're bringing the chronomancer. I think the two of those conflicting is going to be really neat to see how all that all works out.
Watch us fail every casting roll. Nope.
Yeah, that's kind of my thing.
Nope.
Yeah, I'm the worst. So there's all that. Let's go back to the chat real quick and see who else is there. If there's any, if you guys have any questions, it's awesome. German for Night Sword. Wait a minute, what?
That was the name.
Ritterschwert is German for Night Sword?
He does have pretensions.
He does.
Yeah.
That is perfect. And again, also, if you don't know this, Game Trade Media and our parent companies, Diamond Comic Distributors and Alliance Game Distributors, have a really cool contest going on right now, where we are going to send somebody and a friend to San Diego Comic-Con this year, round-trip tickets and hotel. So go check that out. It's on our page. You can find out how to enter. You'll see, Ultimate San Diego Comic-Con prize pack. And there's also some other cool swag that's going to be involved there. But if you haven't checked that out, please do. Let's see, how long have we been doing this now, Johnny? How long have we been doing this? We got our warband put together. What?
No streaming.
About a month. What?
Oh yeah, the contest's been going about 3 weeks.
Oh, okay.
And if you want to learn more about FrostGrave and all of the other cool things coming out of Osprey, go to ospreygames.co.uk.
Yep, that'll do.
And or just put it in Google, search Osprey Games and
so
Osprey Publishing.
There's a lot of downloadable material there, so you can get your wizard sheets. You can download
terrain.
You can download all the spells as little cards if you want them that way.
I think I have the terrain in one of these little stacks real quick. I can show y'all. So if you have card stock and want to print out on card stock, you can actually print out some terrain pieces like this right here, which is like a ruined building. Just kind of cool. So yeah, put on card stock, cut it out, and then you can put that up on your board, which is really cool.
Yeah. So one of the if you're not a big miniature player, even if you are, one of the things FrostGrave does like is pretty crowded tables. They like lots of stuff on the table. Partly this is because if there isn't a lot of stuff on the table, wizards that can throw lightning bolts can fry you very, very easily, so it's good to have lots of things to hide behind, but also it just makes the table look cooler.
Absolutely.
So, it's a ruined city. There should be junk everywhere.
There's also tiles that you can use.
If you want to do kind of dungeons, so one of the supplements is kind of about fighting in dungeons.
Beneath the city.
Yeah, extra rules for dungeons and monsters that you'll find in dungeons. You don't actually need those rules to use a dungeon setup, but they're there if you want.
Like it.
So all of the expansions are designed to bring something new, but to be totally choose to use it or don't.
Right.
I mean, as I say repeatedly, all of FrostGrave to me is here's some cool ideas.
Right.
Use it or don't. It's these are all options. Take them or leave them.
When we get into the game this afternoon, we'll be talking more about the different aspects of the game, from spell casting, as you can see here. So we have spell casting, and we'll talk about that. And then we have ending the game, as far as, because one of the other cool things about this game is at the end of the game, you sit down and then you go through your treasure and you kind of get to look at, how much experience points did I get for my character, right? It's
is there anything more fun than rolling on random treasure tables? I mean, it's just,
I can't think of anything.
That is the greatest aspect of gaming, I'm pretty sure. So that's definitely something I wanted to have in the game. So yeah, after, a lot of war games especially, you kind of achieve the objective and you win the game, but the objective doesn't actually mean anything beyond the game. It was just the thing. Here the objective is stuff, and you get to see which stuff you get.
Right. It's very cool. And at the end of the book here in chapter 5, they have scenarios. So you can actually do up thematics based on how you build your terrain out to represent a different scenario. There's an ancient temple, ruined temple. There is the mausoleum, the Silent Tower, the library. So there's all sorts of cool little scenarios that you have. So I'm going to go here to the Well of Dreams and Sorrows. So there have been reports of a well somewhere in the city that grants visions of the future. When you set this up, place a well in the middle of the board. The rest of the board should be set up as normal with terrain. Special rules: a wizard in contact with the well may spend 1 action to drink from it. Anyone knocked into the well was removed and treated as killed for the purposes of the scenario.
I remember that. That was a little brutal.
it's like you can drink from the well, just don't fall into the well because it will kill you.
A little bit good, not good.
Treasures and experience. Treasure is treated as normal. A wizard gains 100 experience points if he drinks from the well.
Yeah, so that one actually I use a lot in kind of demos and stuff because it's got a very kind of central premise of, here's a well, everybody wants to drink from it. So it gives you a very kind of, that is what I am trying to do.
Right.
And again, and one of the things I do like about it, it's not necessarily, you drinking from the well. You don't have to stop your opponent from drinking the well. There is also treasure on the board, so you will be conflicting over that.
Right.
So a fight will break out, but
Yeah.
but it's not necessarily about winning the fight. It's about,
Right.
do I get to drink from the well, and do I get treasure, and do I get stuff?
Right.
So,
Give me all the stuff. Take it home with me.
and then later, the wizards can set up a base in the frozen city. So if you want, you can like inhabit an old inn or an
Oh, that's
old
cool.
crypt or something, and those give you bonuses. Or so
Right.
if you're in a crypt and you're a necromancer, you got lots of spare parts, readily available, so you get bonuses to raising zombies and stuff like that. So it's just more, a lot of wargaming and role playing, I think, goes on away from the table. It goes on in our heads,
Right.
and I want to encourage that because that's a lot of the fun of it.
Right.
Is when I'm at work, and not here obviously, but I like to be think. Well, now I'm a writer, so I think about this professionally. But when I worked in an office, I would sit around and think about oh man, once I get my warband in a temple and raiding zombies, I'm gonna be
And get all the stuff.
get all the stuff.
Yes. All right, so there we have it. So that is our special edition of Building Character. Joe, thank you so much for coming in.
No problem.
I look forward to destroying you this afternoon with my amazing warband led by Ray the Wizard.
I brought a sparkly die though, so
Oh, crap.
got it at Gen Con especially for this warband. So I'm just saying.
Ridiculous.
Yep.
Ridiculous.
Polished to a
Oh.
impossible gleam. That's the thing, so nobody can actually see what
Can
it
actually
rolls.
see what
It's
it is.
like,
That's why.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, so there you have it, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for those that you shared and was in the chat and communicated with us, because we do appreciate when everybody has something to say. Christopher, and lastly, we have Christopher Manala says, I grabbed a bunch of the FrostGrave books and minis at HMGS Cold Wars this past weekend. And then FrostGrave works so well because it's such an open sandbox to play in. Or Snowdrift.
Yeah.
So very cool, everybody. We do appreciate it. Again, stay tuned. This afternoon we have Painting Happy Little Minis, and I believe Joe is going to sit in
I'll
with us.
sit in.
We're still
Destroy some minis.
we're going to but we're going to paint some Star Wars Legion still. So you get to see some, you get to see some new stuff.
Then you can paint over them after I leave. It's like, oh God, we're giving these away. We got it.
Well, Dave will paint over them, right, Dave?
That's fine.
And then after that, we're gonna pre-record it and then put it up later this week. The game between your warband and my warband, and show you all how the game plays on the table, and it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So on that note, go to your friendly local game store, pick up FrostGrave. If they do not have it, ask them to get it for you through their distributor channel, so that you can have this game in your hands, taking all the miniatures that you've collected over the years and put them on a table and find all the stuff.
Yeah. And also, I'd say check out the Facebook group. It's just FrostGrave Fantasy War Games in the Frozen City. It's got 8,000 members, and it's just a great community, a really friendly group, and just everybody. Yeah. Look at this terrain I make. Look at these war bands, and if you got questions about the game, just ask them on there, and I hang out there, and they'll get answered. And
Perfect.
It's just a really friendly corner of the internet. So
I think some of those guys are actually watching right now because I shared this in that group. So we appreciate you all that have built a community. I thank you for letting us into your community, and we hope that you'll join us here at Game Trade Media, and so you don't miss out on all the other weird stuff that we're doing here with Painting Happy Little Minis. other episodes of Building Character, and we also have Board Games and Beyond, where we kind of talk about upcoming games from the industry. So it's a lot of fun.
Okay.
Joe, again, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
I'm Rick, and we'll see you at the game store.
Thanks for watching Building Character. If you liked it, leave a like and a comment below, and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any new content.